for a notebook. I'm not kidding you. Okay, so people aren't feeling it at home.
No.
So when he does this thing with Rob Reiner, look, this was a hug your kid moment for everybody in this country, right? Everybody's part of a family. Everybody's got problems in their family. This brutal thing happens. Could have been a win for him.
And it also speaks to his mental
own way.
acuity. He can't get. It speaks to his mental acuity. If you want to take time out, especially we're moments after Bondi, and you want to take time out to talk about we want to have revenge, and we still don't. Unemployment is a huge issue. Numbers are not right. We are just now finding that out. And to your point, the inflation wasn't that much. It was mutable, in my opinion. Not great, mutable.
And then I don't want to monopolize the time, but like, he's also supposed to be an emotional leader, like FDR was during the Depression and World War II. That was a moment where everybody in the country needed a hug. Everybody needed to go, oh my God. Instead, and then, are we forgetting about the two kids that are living and the family? He's not the only one in the world. He's not perfect. I'm not bashing him in that sense, but like we can't forgive one thing because another thing is going well.
Point stipulated. He is not the hugger-in-chief of his enemies. That is 100%.
Well, he's far
stipulated point. I guess the point I'm trying to make is you look back at the year. He ran on two big issues: inflation, economy, and immigration. Right? We could debate the economy, and you could point to some facts that are good, some facts that are bad. But on the other one, I mean, this has been an incredible year on closing the border. That was something that I voted for. I didn't vote for him when I needed a hand or when I needed a pat on the back. I voted for him to stop those two problems.
You voted for him to get rid of war. You voted for him not to be divisive. You voted for him to make this America a better. You voted for him to make America great again.
And I think he's doing it.
And I disagree with you wholeheartedly, and I think most Americans feel that way.
I do want to ask you, Brianna, one of the big issues here that it's almost the elephant, if you will, in the room in many different ways are the subsidies that are not going to go through. Mm-hmm. And so people will see their premiums skyrocket. We're talking more than 40 million Americans. What do you do about that? Your president has said, I have a plan, put one forward. Republicans outright rejected it. It got taken back. Republicans said they had a plan. It does not address this issue. And now we're in this scenario where in a couple of weeks, you're going to see these skyrocketing premiums and people are scared.
And let me just say to people who are scared at home, I completely empathize with you. It is hard for families in this economy, which to Joe's point, we are on the right trajectory. Things don't feel amazing right now. So it is hard for families, and I sympathize with them. I'm disappointed in Republicans who have had 15 years to come up with something to replace Obamacare with, and they haven't come up with something that I at least find satisfactory. That being said, when it comes to the subsidies, these are subsidies that were passed in 2022, and Democrats were very smart. They said, let's make this a 3-year extension. I think they thought they were going to win in November 2024, and they were going to be able to extend those subsidies again. I don't think they calculated that they would lose and they would have to work with Republicans on this. So this is a big part. 90% of it is Democrats' fault. One, for passing Obamacare to begin with. We were told this was going to lower healthcare costs. Now we're being told if the government doesn't subsidize us again, people can't afford their healthcare. And two, they keep wanting to kick the can down the line. At some point, we have to open that can up and say, what's going on? And if Republicans don't have a response to that right now, it's unfortunate for everyone involved, but the blame should fall on Democrats' shoulders.
But Johnson's trying to kick the can down the road, and the moderate Republicans stepped in, right? They basically told him, if you're not going to deal with the extremists, we will. You're out, right? They're using... It's transactional realism in the House now, right? They basically, it's not that they believe necessarily in extending the subsidies. It's politically expedient to save their jobs, to say, you know what, we're going to meet the Democrats halfway on this. So to say 90% of it is their fault, you could also say that the Republicans aren't meeting the Democrats halfway on this. They want it all or nothing on some level.
Right,
no?
and I don't think Republicans should have the burden of meeting Democrats halfway on a policy that has been, one, rife with fraud and abuse, and two, has cost way more money than they were even promised originally. I do think Republicans failed in that. Again, 15 years later, they don't really have something that's great to replace it with. That they could have been working on. But to pretend like this is a Republican problem, Democrats created Obamacare. They told us it was the Affordable Care Act, and now it's anything but affordable.
I'll give you that. I mean, the Democratic is flawed.
I think the solution that they've sort of proposed, that the White House has been pushing, how we're going to basically, give people subsidized to choose their own program, I think that has always been the Republican solution to the Affordable Care Act. It's just surprising, like you pointed out, It's been a decade,
Yeah.
and you'd think they'd have worked out the kinks and kicked the tires a little bit and have something ready to go. They knew they were going to be in this position a year ago. I would have hoped there was a little bit more emphasis on being in a forward, fighting position at this point.
I mean, excuse me for being a bit skeptical here, because it has been so long, and because this has been one of the biggest issues for Americans. One of their biggest fears is that they either go bankrupt or they're left literally to die and can't get their medications. As to why there has not been a plan, there has been a lot of complaining about Obamacare, but there hasn't been a robust coming together to say, all right, here's our plan. And I do want to remind folks what it felt like before Obamacare for a lot of people. Pre-existing conditions were a problem. If you, for example, had cancer, you may not be able to get insurance. And that was one of the big things that the ACA, or Obamacare as it's referred to, helped people with. So there's a lot of questions.
But it
people
also
have as
took
to why
people's
this-
doctors away. You were told you could keep your doctor if you like your doctor. So many Americans lost their doctor too.
That
People
was
are
an
still
issue.
struggling. We were told this is going to be affordable. It is anything but affordable, and people who are on private insurance are now subsidizing this massive program that just doesn't seem to stop growing. It's like a big
It is
jello.
broken, but and what we want our politicians to do is, they're not perfect. The Democrats flawed, definitely. Republicans flawed. Fix it. Fix something that's broken. Who cares whose fault it is?
All right, we're going to put a pause on that. Up next on